my life for a really long time was like work and dieting. Like it wasn't very fun. And I was always saying, once I lose the weight, then I'll go do the fun thing.
Mhm.
Right. And we do this thing, we
Do
wait on the
that.
weight loss.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's that thing that keeps us stuck because our bodies have needs to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, to relieve stress. And
Mhm.
then we make our world so small because we think, but first I got to lose the weight, or first I got to get my eating together. But then what's happening is we're depriving ourselves from all the other needs.
Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Welcome to another episode of Radiant Mom Rising. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that so many moms wrestle with but rarely talk about: our relationship with food and emotional eating. I am thrilled to have Sara Blake joining us. Sara is an emotional eating coach who helps women completely lose the desire to emotionally eat. She believes that when women reclaim their mental energy from battling food, they can finally focus on creating the rich, fulfilling lives they desire. Through her radiant and rich methods, Sara empowers success-driven women to achieve their goals faster and with less effort by eliminating the unwanted patterns around food and weight that sneakily hold them back. Sara is not only a coach who helps women heal their food struggles, but she's also walked this path herself. She's here to share her incredible journey of transformation and offer actionable advice to help you break free from emotional eating, reconnect with your self-worth, and start living a life that feels full and balanced without food being the enemy. If you've ever found yourself turning to food for comfort or feeling like it's a constant battle, this conversation is going to resonate deeply. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's rise together with the incredible Sara Blake. Welcome back to Radiant Mom Rising Podcast. Mary Dibble here, and I'm also with a special guest, Sara Blake. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too, and I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to be talking about today. So let's jump in here because it's all about eating. And I just want you to start with introducing yourself and telling us about what you do.
Yeah, perfect. So I help women to lose the desire to overeat or emotionally eat. And the food has always been, well, actually, not always because it's not anymore, but for a lot of my life, food was a very difficult issue for me. It was kind of like my secret issue that I struggled with. And for a lot of my life, I thought I would struggle with for a very long time. And after many failed diet attempts and even going more into disordered eating, one day I just said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I Googled how to lose weight without dieting because I was in this hard place. Like I always say, I think a lot of women often find themselves between a rock and a hard place with food because it's like
Yes.
you don't necessarily want to do a really restrictive diet because you've seen that that doesn't work and it just makes you feel crazy. But then there's this fear around just completely letting yourself
Yep.
go. And when I did that Google search, miraculously, I found this whole world online, this network of coaches who were teaching women about emotional eating, but also all the ways that we don't nourish ourselves that we're deeply craving that then often turn into food cravings. And so as I sort of discovered and learned more, I went on a whole healing journey and completely cleared all of my food drama. At that time, I had been overeating almost nightly, which I think is a thing that a lot of women do. It's like at the end of the day, when you have time for yourself, you end up raiding your pantry. And I had gained 40 pounds really fast in like a year. And I was at that point, like, I just want to feel good.
Yeah.
And what was amazing was when I stopped focusing so much on losing the weight, but really got to the heart of the issue, which was my relationship with food, but also my relationship with myself. Not only did I emerge feeling like, whoa, I actually feel good and I like myself and I feel relaxed around food, but all of that weight melted off over time. And so my message to women is really, I think with a lot of the time, we get so caught up on this relationship with food that's about trying to control it, trying to lose weight, trying not to eat too much. And then ultimately we swing to the other side and we feel crazy and overwhelmed. And the moment that stress gets intense, it's like the first thing we want to do is just hit the Oreos or the Doritos or whatever it is. And what I really believe is so much of the way that we're taught to relate to food is actually the thing making us feel crazy. And there is a way to find that middle ground where you can enjoy food fully, you love your body, but food and your weight is not a thing that's like constantly a project that you're
Yeah.
always working on. You're actually stable and settled and peaceful around it. So that's really what I want for women because I think we have enough to worry about without this.
Right? I mean, don't we though? And eating is a huge thing. I mean, here in America, especially, like obesity and all the preservatives and all the different things that are such temptations for us always face, it makes it that much harder for so many moms and so many people to
Yeah.
really control that. And you're right, it is such an emotionally connected thing that so many people don't even realize it. It's,
Yes.
and that is another aspect, like your experience with that, like what was it through that journey that you even realized it was a connection like that, or when were you aware of that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I lived so much of my life thinking that if I just got the math right with food, the calories in,
Yes.
calories out, everything would be fine. But food is a lot like money in the sense that, yeah, you can get your budget right and your numbers lined up. But if the behavior is not aligned with the numbers, right? If the way that you're
Love
acting and
that.
feeling around it, if that's not actually in alignment, then the budget doesn't matter. It's just going to stay this thing that's on paper or on your little app, but you're not actually going to follow through with it. So I think what a lot of us get frustrated by is we think that we should just be able to make the math work. But we forget that there are these deeper reasons why we turn to food and why, it's not just as simple as calories in, calories out, because we're not robots.
Yeah.
And the other
Yeah.
thing is, we get more out of food. And I actually believe we're meant to get more out of food than just calories. Like, food is
Yeah.
an emotional experience, it can be a social experience. All of that is beautiful.
Hmm.
We don't have to let go of it. And actually, I find it's often when we try to make food overly simplistic
Hmm.
and just too cut and dry that we end up feeling deprived. And then that deprivation is what leads to the out of control behavior.
Yeah.
So it was really when I started to get more into the emotional eating and also looking at the way I was depriving myself in my life. And like, this is a topic we could get into too, but a lot of the time, especially with women, food is the one thing we do that feels like it's fully for ourselves,
Yeah. Oh,
right? Like
yeah.
eating a cupcake, nobody else is enjoying that. It's just you. And that's great. But if it's the only thing you have in your life that's just for you,
Yeah.
then it's going to become this relationship that actually isn't, that healthy. And I don't even just mean healthy because of the sugar or the whatever. It's just like, it's not actually giving you what you need. If what you're craving really is a break or pleasure or relaxation or time off, and food is the only way you get that,
Yeah.
like you're not actually giving yourself what you need, you know?
That's a great point, actually. I never thought of it like that, and that's so important to really become aware of for yourself because it's almost like people who like quit smoking cigarettes and they always end up gaining weight. You know why? It's because they're so used to having that habit of pulling that
Yeah.
cigarette up that they end up replacing it with the food. Addiction is a thing and it's something that follows you in one way or another. So it's like one thing, you just replace one thing for another. But food is a dangerous thing. It really is in its sense. And it's so important to bring awareness to this. And I love that you're doing that because, for someone like me, I had eating disorders growing up because
Mhm.
my dad made me feel like I was the chubby one, even though I really was never fat, but he made me feel that way. And that's all it took. And that little moment or belief that was put in me, like, followed me through my life and made me get to a point where I almost was afraid to eat. So I had moments of like just being like anorexic where I wouldn't eat anything, or then I would gorge and eat and then throw it all up and be so it's like I had a lot of struggles with that, but you're right, it all boiled down to me and my relationship with me. And when I started learning to love me and value me and see myself as the beautiful person that I am, that is where I really was able to get out of that mindset and get away from that behavior that allows me now to be just mindful of what I eat To a point. I'm not perfect because you're right. We're humans. And that's something I love my husband for. I'll be honest. My husband is like way better at nutrition and taking care of that. And I'm very blessed to have him because I've never really been someone who was very educated about it, which is why I love having people like you to talk about it and to share and bring awareness because there are people like me who aren't as knowledgeable and understanding of not only the importance of eating, but understanding what it does for your body. You know,
Mm,
because you're like you say, it's not just about eating to eat, it's the nutrients that our body needs to fuel, the energy that can come from the different kinds of foods, even that you can eat. But it's all connected as well with our mental health and just
mhm.
understanding that and having that relationship. So I just think that's fantastic. And I'd love to learn a little bit more of your journey with that and some of the things that you've learned that's really helped you to transition in your life from that emotional
Yeah.
eating.
Well, I want to tie this into what you said
Yeah.
about your dad because I think this one lesson that I have that I teach all my clients I think would be really helpful because probably the women who are tuning into this, the moms and whoever else is here, they probably resonated with when you just said that, having an experience themselves in childhood when they were meant to feel bad about their bodies or bad about the way they ate, or when they were meant to feel like something about the way they looked or they ate or whatever was wrong. And I want to actually get a little bit into what's really going on there because I think this is a really important lesson, and this is something that I learned that really helped me to understand the motivations behind the way I was eating and helped me really heal. Is so one of the reasons why when we can have food issues that feel like they follow us through our lives is because in childhood we really deeply just want to be loved and cared for, and really we're wired for that. We're wired to do whatever we think is going to get us that love because we need to survive, right? Like that's the only
Yep.
way we know if we're with our parents, if we're with people that we care about, we'll survive. And so it's that very primal thing. Now, what happens is when you think that to be loved, you need to avoid food, you're creating this conflict between two survival needs. And that's really where the disorder comes from because it feels like I have these two really basic needs to be loved and accepted by the people that care for me so that I can survive, and literally eating the amount of food that my body is asking me to. And let's face it, it's really normal for kids to go through even just chubby phases as we're growing. Like
Yeah.
it's so dangerous. I mean, childhood obesity and things like that is a whole other topic, but it's
Yeah.
really dangerous to expect that kids have to look all a certain way because they grow at different rates and things like that. So when you learn as a kid to say that your body and your eating style is wrong, then what happens is you actually have these competing survival needs, right? And that's why there can be so much dysfunction. And then as we go through our life, we can also end up taking away other needs that we have that we don't realize. So for example, like how often have people been on a diet where it's like, okay, because I'm on this diet, I'm not going to go out with friends because I don't want to eat, what's out there. But then
Yeah.
guess what's happening? You're missing out on your need for social connection, and you're missing out on your need for friendship and laughter and release. And those are all, if we look at the hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
Those are all actually things that humans need to feel good. So what I often find and what really helped me on my journey, because to get back to your original question,
Yeah.
was looking at the way that food was the only need that I could really reliably count on. So it made so much sense that that was the one thing I was always going back to. But I had to learn how to create other needs, how to put other needs more available in my life. So for example, I had to learn how to be like, I want more social connection in my life. So maybe my number one task to actually feel normal around food is to start going out more and putting myself out there more and trying to make friends, which is hard as an adult. Like this is a whole thing. Maybe my need is to be more creatively expressed because my life for a really long time was like work and dieting. Like it wasn't very fun, and I was always saying, Once I lose the weight, then I'll go do the fun thing,
Mhm.
right? And we do this thing, we
Do
wait on the
that.
weight loss,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
that's that thing that keeps us stuck because our bodies have needs to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, to relieve stress. And then we're
Mhm.
like, we make our world so small because we think, but first I got to lose the weight, or first I got to get my eating together. But then what's happening is we're depriving ourselves from all the other needs, but there's still that box of, crackers in the cupboard. And so your brain, all it can think of is like, well, I'm not getting my connection or comfort need met. What can I do? Oh, well, I can eat crackers because that kind of helps me feel more comforted, or like feel, just a little bit more relief if I can't get the social connection I need right now. So I really find that with my journey, so much of it was about identifying where am I deprived in other areas of life. Also with food, because a lot of us think, maybe we think we have to eat so little, right? Like people go on these extreme restrictive, like 1,200 calorie. It's like, okay, that's also could be part of the issue. And that's something I talk about with my clients as well. Let's make sure you're actually eating enough. And then
Yeah.
beyond that, let's look at what you're missing out on in other areas that food is kind of a stand-in for right now. Food is kind of replacing that love, that comfort, that connection, that joy, that pleasure that we also have a need for. So, yeah, that was a
Oh,
bit of a long-winded answer, but I just really wanted
yes.
to convey like that is the thing that I think so many of us have gone through and we didn't even realize we were missing this need, or we had these competing needs in childhood. And then we go through our whole lives being like, do I want love and acceptance? Okay, then I have to be skinny, but then I'm missing out on food. Oh, now I feel crazy around food because I'm not giving myself enough food. And it's this vicious cycle.
Isn't it? It's like running on a hamster wheel, trying to chase some the same thing, and not even realizing that there's so much more out there that you're missing. And I can't imagine people listening right now. How much do you relate to this? I'm listening to you and you're telling, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, like,
Right.
wow, wow. It's these things, and this is where the whole mind, body, and soul all connects. And such an important thing, an important message that's getting more and more out there to help people who are stuck.
Yeah.
Because that whole thing right there, what you just said, I hear it all the time. I'll be happy when. I'll be
Mm,
okay when, and I was guilty of that. I used to feel like, okay, when I have my money, then I can be happy. Or when I have my success, then I can do this and that and this and that. And then, one of the best thing my mentor ever taught me is having that feeling now, like understanding
yeah.
we have it now. And when you get in that vibrations and in tuned with not having to wait for it to happen before you feel it, that is where you start getting aligned with where you're meant to go, and you start really attracting what you're meant to have, and also letting go of the expectations of what you think you want or what you need, and allowing life to unfold in the way you're meant to, because sometimes it does take you down different paths that you don't expect to go down, and I think that's kind of neat if you don't have this whole like, oh, I'm gonna do, this is what I want and this is how it has to be and blah blah blah. you know
100%. Well,
right.
this is something also like I talk about this with my clients all the time around the timeline around their body changing, because for so often we're like, I must lose this amount of pounds in 12 weeks. You know what I mean? And it's like, but okay, you can maybe do that and you can really go hard for 12 weeks. And some people do that. But the truth is that 95% of diet attempts usually result in rebound weight gain.
Oh yes, you're right. And that's I've had people talk about that. And also,
Yes.
one thing when you said that I loved was an example is, if you have been sitting here eating unhealthy for 10 years of your life, for instance, like let's say 10, 15 years, you've had this unhealthy eating pattern, and then you decide that I'm going to go on a diet or I'm going to change that and go on it for a week.
Yeah,
How can you really expect a result in a week when you've been doing
exactly.
this certain pattern for this long? And I think that if we can take a step back, right? And have that compassion and realization that just because you decide that you're ready to make the changes doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, 2 months, 3 months, sometimes 6 months. But the point of the matter is doing it anyways and really putting in the time and the consistency and the action, and you will get the results. Like one way or another. I think that is what we all need to focus on is learning how to, kind of have fun, enjoy the journey along
Yes.
the way, keep motivated, stay in the flow and get connected with people, get help, get connected in any way that keeps you going. Because, yes, you're not going to always see the results right away, and that is okay. But
Yeah.
if you don't start now and keep going, you're never going to get there, anyways.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's like anytime people try to, or like a lot of the time when I'm talking with a potential client, I'll ask them what they've already tried.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, every fad diet you can think of. Like, I've even heard of new diets that I didn't know about. Like, one of my past clients told me about the potato diet where you only eat potatoes or
What?
all of these things. And the thing that I always tell them is, okay, the number one way you know if something's going to work for you is can you see yourself doing it 10 years for 10 years? Like, can you see yourself doing it 10 years from now? You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
The thing that finally got to me, and this also really applied because I had always done the extreme with food and exercise. And when I finally found kind of a pattern of moving my body that worked for me, which was honestly for the first couple of years of my healing journey, I was basically just walking. Like that was the thing that I did. And that was all I really needed at the time. But the thing that I had to think about was, well, can I see myself doing this for 10 years? Yeah. Okay, awesome. I am not saying that it's going to take 10 years. What
No.
I'm saying is that if you are expecting to have lasting results,
Yeah.
what you're doing differently has to be something that you can do that lasts, right? Like
Yes.
it has to be something that you're doing forever. And this is why, just even with calorie counting and things like that, I ask women, like, do you want to be counting your calories every single day obsessively for 10 years?
I love
Like,
that.
is that what you want to do? Because if you don't, then you can do it for the 12-week program or whatever.
Yeah.
But then what's going to happen as soon as you stop?
Exactly. The rebound, like you say,
That's
you're
what
gonna
it
gain it,
is.
you'll get right back into your old pattern because that's what it is. It's a lifestyle.
It is.
People, it's all about our lifestyles and what we choose to live day in and day out. And so it's like, yeah, there's needs to be a sense of flexibility to a point, but that is a wonderful question right there with any decision you're about to make when it comes to your exercise or dieting or whatever it is you're wanting to do. Can you do this for the next 10 years? I mean, I love that because it shifts from it being that short term to
Yeah.
understanding like this is going to be like who we become. And you know what?
Yes.
You're going to be a better person for it because and your kids are going to be a better person for it. For moms out there because you're setting a new example for them and them seeing you do these things and seeing mommy's taking care of herself, that's going to make me want to take care of myself. And it's not easy. So what would you say to somebody who is ready for change, but that seems like so hard right now to put it into my busy life to get going? What's something you would say to somebody feeling that way, but also deep down they're wanting to change?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question because this is actually the area that I think what I teach and the way I approach it is so different than from what a lot of people expect because a lot of people expect I'm going to say something like, well, just start getting more serious or like try a little harder. No, here's what I actually think. I actually think that if you wanted the best chance of you feeling better in your body, potentially getting, shaving off some extra weight or whatever it is, but again, that doesn't even have to be the focus. If you just want to feel better in your body, you want to feel better around food, then the first thing I would get you to ask yourself is, what do I have for pleasure in my life right now? Where am I missing out on pleasure and fun? Because more than likely, if you have been in a pattern of emotional eating or overeating, which is what my clients deal with, it is because food is fun and everything else feels like work, work, work. You wake up, you're getting your kids ready for school, you're getting yourself ready for work, you're going to work, you come home, you have to get the kids to bed, you have to do your chores. And then, of course, at the end of the day, you have one fun thing, and that is the chocolate or the cookies or whatever else. And that's not even necessarily a bad thing. In my approach, we actually don't have any food off limits, but we also understand if the only reason you're turning to the food is because you're lacking fun, then what you really need in your life is to figure out what else can I be doing for fun and pleasure. And I think not only is pleasure so beautiful because it's something that when we delve into other ways of taking care of ourselves, we feel like different women. We feel nourished, we feel elevated, we feel taken care of. But also, pleasure is a thing that tells our body that we're safe. Because if you're running away from a tiger or if you're in a disaster, like we were talking, I know this episode is going to come out later, but we're talking about the hurricanes that
Yeah.
at the time of the recording have been happening. If you're in an emergency situation, you don't really have time for pleasure and fun. Your body gets in that stress response. But once you are able to show yourself, it is safe for me to take time to enjoy, have fun, do
Yeah.
something for myself, your body goes, oh, we're safe. So guess what happens? That urge to stress eat stops happening because you're not as stressed,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So it's so much about like, I don't even think that you necessarily have to start with food to really start to feel different in your body. It's starting with what am I missing that I'm right now turning to food to get?
Hey there, Radiant Moms. Just a quick break from the show. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure of your next step? Whether you're navigating the beautiful chaos of motherhood or building your dream business as a mompreneur, I'm here to help. As a life purpose and goal success master life coach, I specialize in helping moms like you thrive both in life and business. If you're ready to shift your mindset, create new habits, and take action toward the life you truly want, let's connect. I'm offering a free Radiant Mom Breakthrough session. Together, we'll talk through your biggest challenges and dreams, and I'll share actionable advice you can use right now. Plus, we'll see if partnering together could help you dive even deeper in achieving your goals. No pressure, no obligations. Your breakthrough moment is waiting. Head to the show notes to book your free session today. Let's make those dreams a reality, Mama. You've got this, and I can't wait to cheer you on. Now, back to the show. Wow. And that, you speaking on that too. And I know this is not necessarily food, but it takes me back to drinking, even because I realized that was one of my pleasure things. Like when I had a stressful day at work, I used to have to always come home and I just had to pour me a glass of wine. Like I always looked forward to that glass of wine at the end of my day. And hearing what you're saying makes me realize no wonder it was easier to not crave it anymore or not need it anymore when I started doing like pickleball or going for walks because it's like you're right. I'm still finding another way that's healthy to get me active. And that is something I've realized too, just being active. Like you say, just going for a walk sometimes is
Yeah.
just enough to get your body. Like I noticed with my husband when he goes for his runs and stuff after work, he doesn't drink like he used to. And that helps so much with anything that you have an attachment to. Like you say, that is kind of feeling that craving that you're missing that's not healthy for you, And you're right. There's nothing wrong saying that there's nothing wrong with having a little fun or pleasure sometimes, but when it becomes almost an everyday need,
Yeah.
like you're having like you can't stop yourself from doing
Yeah.
it, like that's a problem. And that's where you need to really evaluate and really be real with yourself. It's not easy, I
Yeah.
know, but it's like it's also come on, one of the things that I always try to remind myself that's not easy to admit a lot of times is what you do now affects your later. And when you really think about that, like, that's scary because it's like, oh, think about back in your 20s when you're out partying and doing all that stuff, you don't know what kind of damage you're causing. But that stuff catches up to you later in life.
Yeah.
And or if you don't grow up exercising and doing stuff and you get later on, you get arthritis and back pains and all these. I see it even in my own mom, like someone who wasn't consistent with taking care of exercising. It's like she now aches and hurts. And I'm like, man, how we take life for granted, how we don't take this stuff serious enough to realize like every choice we make or don't make really affects where we're going to end up, how we're going to end up, how our life's going to be. And this is why having these kind of conversations is so important because, again, just that awareness so that you get to decide and know that you get to decide how you end up and how
Yeah.
you live your life and where you're going to be when you're in your 60s and 70s. Are you going to be, like, because I've seen older people who like really get down. I mean, like my husband's parents are in their 70s and they're out there playing pickleball and doing stuff. And that's awesome to see. But there's a lot of people who's at their age who can't really get around. and do
Yeah.
stuff, And I mean, even some of them still have their struggles because they could have done more. But that's the thing, this is all about really being mindful and understanding that, everything we do now will affect us later.
And, bringing it back to when we were talking about the whole waiting thing, like I'll do this when, I'll
Oh,
do this then. One of the things, like I've had clients who are in their 60s, for example, and it's like they spent all of their life waiting to lose
mm,
weight to do these fun things. And then it's like, and now you have this limited time to do it. But also, you never know if you're going to end up with these health issues that actually prevent you from finally doing those things anyway. So it's like, it's, I think the thing that holds people back is they think we're all really overstretched and we've got a lot going on.
yeah.
And we think this whole process means putting more work on our plate. And I really believe, and this is what I prioritize in my approach, that it's really about taking away. It's not about adding more. It's about, okay, look, maybe you do have too much on your plate right now. What we need to do is we need to find space and time for you to relax and unwind. Maybe having 37 diet rules that you can't even follow anyway and fall off every Friday night anyway, like maybe that's actually giving way more stressful and giving you way
Mm,
too much to think about. And we can simplify the second phase of my process with clients is always about mastering your habits, because when something is
yeah.
really a habit, you don't have to think about doing it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not this thing that you have to like psych yourself up. And that's where willpower actually becomes irrelevant. You don't really need willpower when something is a habit, because it's a habit, because it's something that's so automatic. And I really believe that, so many methods that women turn to try to get their eating together, their health together, it just feels like more work.
Hmm.
And having more work on your plate is the whole reason you're
Yeah.
turning to food to begin with, because
Yeah.
you have too much work and you're craving a release and relief from that. And so what I really believe in is, let's make this actually the most joyful, fun, pleasurable thing on your day, because like you were saying with the drinking as well, like eating and drinking are the most accessible
Mm,
ways that we often find
yeah.
to do something for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like when we have other things as well that help us to feel like we have a way to relieve that stress,
Hmm.
even if it's just like taking a little bit of time for yourself, having a different evening routine that's actually about filling you up
Yeah.
instead of getting a head start on the tasks for tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much also around overworking that ties into that. But when we can really create a structure in our life that helps us feel like we always have things to rely on to feel fulfilled, though, like I said, that desire to turn to food for that
Yeah.
fulfillment, it just goes
That's
away.
right.
It's not something that you have to like, I have to fight myself. I used to have to fight myself not to eat bread. I don't want to eat bread. And then it's like, I don't even think about bread. Like, I'll
Hmm.
eat bread, but I don't think about it as this thing that has such a hold on me, such a pull,
Yeah.
because I don't have those crazy cravings, because whatever bread was giving me, I'm getting
Yeah.
I'm getting the comfort, I'm getting the warm hug. Like,
Yes.
that's the things I was craving. And it's like, I can get that in so many areas, and I can have bread, but I don't go crazy anymore?
Exactly. Yeah. It no longer controls you. Like you control
Yes.
that. That's
Yes.
exactly how I feel too. Cause it's like that for so long. Like even with drugs, everything, it all, I was so reliant. I needed it to fill me up because I didn't know anything else or to numb me per se. And it's like, it's so nice to get to that point where it's like, yeah, that's like never ever anything in my thoughts at all. Like I'm even with me with sweets. Like I don't really eat sweets. I don't drink sodas. I don't do any of that stuff. But there was a time a long time ago where that was a thing for me. But I don't
Yeah.
crave that stuff anymore because it's been so long. Like you say, the habits, like when you
Yeah.
it's no longer a part of your everyday,
Yeah.
you would be surprised how much you just don't crave it anymore and you just don't like it. And it's definitely possible. And it is so important to ask yourself just how bad do you want the things that you want? I mean, how bad do you want it? Do you want your life to change? Do you want to attract the success, the wealth, the abundance that you are dreaming of? If you're wanting to lose weight, how bad do you want to? Because I see it so many times. And for moms, I know having a child is a huge struggle to your body. It changes you. I've been there, but I also see so many times people who say they want to change and then they don't want to actually put in the work, or maybe that's the problem. Maybe they see it as work and that is
Yeah.
the issue, because they don't want to put in the time or the effort to really make those changes necessary. Is there anything that you could speak to somebody out there who kind of is stuck behind their excuses? Because that ultimately that's what we
Mm.
do. We all do it. We make excuses of why we don't exercise, why we don't get started on that. So, is there anything you would say to help them to maybe have a different perspective to motivate them?
I love this so much because here's what I really think about why we procrastinate or make excuses. I think the reason we do it is because we don't like the way that we talk to ourselves about the thing. So, for example, I used to resist exercise so much because the whole time I was exercising, I was like, you're so unfit. You're so bad at this. You're not like, you don't, why don't you have abs yet? You did that 30-day abs challenge. Like, the way I was talking to myself was so unsupportive. And I remember, I think there was a post or something online I saw from a business coach who said, very few entrepreneurs burn out from overwork, but it's more that they burn out from the way they're talking to themselves about their work or the way that they treat themselves with their work, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, sure. People burn out. Absolutely, right? And depending, I'm sure I think she's talking more to like online coaches and things like that. We're not doing heavy labor. So I guess if you're an entrepreneur who's like, I don't know, a builder or a plumber or something totally different. But if you have a relatively comfortable, job or
Yeah.
position, more likely the things that are really getting in your way is the way that you talk to yourself about how you do things and the way you think about yourself. And I think this is the hard thing of making weight loss the ultimate goal or the goal that has to be accomplished in a certain period of time. Otherwise, because then the whole time you're just thinking, why isn't this happening fast enough? Why am I so bad at this? How did I let myself get to this place? And this is why what I do in the first phase of the work I do with clients, and often this is like a month or 2 months, is we really work on what is the drama going on in your head around food in your body. Because if that drama is still there, if you still, the only reason you see to work out is because you hate yourself, that's not going to last 10 years. Remember the thing about 10 years, like, so
Yeah.
often it's not even the thing, it's the way we talk to ourselves about the thing. It's the fact that when we have a craving now, the thought that goes in our head is, you're so unhealthy. No wonder you're so fat. What's wrong with you? Instead of being like, ooh, interesting. I crave chocolate. Well, maybe I should just have the chocolate and enjoy it. Or, ooh, I'm craving chocolate, but I've been craving chocolate every single night for the past 3 weeks. I wonder if there's some sweetness or comfort that I'm really craving that I'm using. Like,
Yes.
there's a
Yes.
sense of compassion and curiosity that I think we're missing when we're making change, which is why change feels so hard because we don't like the way we talk to ourselves about the change.
Yeah, oh my goodness. And I love that. That's that negative self-talk. And we have
Yeah.
that so much. So many of us struggle with this. And this is what I love to help people with, myself even, is reframing that negative self-talk. And I love that because that is where you building that awareness originally to even understand and know, what what is the crap that we're saying to ourselves? 'Cause we are your own worst critic. That I hate that. Unfortunately, that's the saying, and unfortunately, it's true for so many of us. But let's turn this around and change that. And it starts right there with that awareness of even knowing how you're talking to yourself. How are you seeing yourself? Because that is something that will change it all for you. It
Yeah.
really will. It'll make all the difference. And if you could work to reframe it, and I love that whole curiosity perspective of just asking yourself, well, why do I crave this? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I saying these things to myself? And then think of something nice that you can say instead, something empowering and encouraging that will motivate you to keep going in that direction. Because just like with building a habit, that's what it's like reframing. And it's all about changing your beliefs and changing your perspective of how you've been seeing the world, how you've been seeing yourself, and allowing yourselves to believe in a different reality, in a different way that's
Yeah.
going to help you finally bring you to what you really want. And that ultimately, I think, is what everyone is looking for. And it's possible.
I
Yeah.
think what you were saying earlier about how you have to feel it
Yeah.
and kind of embody it and just, just think about, okay, what will I feel like then? Even with your self-talk, that's a great way to do it. If you had the body of your dreams and your life was going amazingly, you wouldn't be going, wow, you're so bad at exercising. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. So like I do this thing where I help my clients create a model, and I talk about the internal model eventually matches the external model. So
I love
basically
that.
you look at, okay,
Yeah.
what's the model of what your thoughts, your feelings, your actions would look like if you already had everything that you wanted with your body, your health, whatever, right? Okay, now what's your model right now? They probably look very different. And then I
Absolutely.
know we get into this pattern of like, oh, but I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But okay, you don't even know how you got there. And so many people think they're going to get there by being mean to themselves. No, you'll get there
Hmm.
when you actually start treating yourself like you are that person.
Person. Yes. Oh
That's
my God.
what it is.
It is. It truly is. And it sounds simpler than it is, which is why it's great having people like Sarah to help you along the way because it is not easy and it's something that you have to, it's like training your mind.
Yeah.
I love my friend who calls it like the mind gym.
Yeah.
It's like you're having to train, like you're having to build muscles in a gym. You're having to do that with your own brain. And your brain is such a powerful part of you that if you don't do this, then it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter. You're just going to keep attracting all the same crap over and over again. And what do they say that in that what they say the definition is of a crazy person? So when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, right? So let's get off that hamster wheel, people.
Yeah. And
Join us.
I know, and you know what? I think the thing with that is what people don't realize is it's not just doing the same thing over and over again, it's thinking the same way over and over again.
Mm,
Right? Because your
yes.
thoughts are really the things that are triggering the way that you feel and then the way that you
Triggers.
act, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't even necessarily start with the action. It really starts with, how do I see myself? And then how does that make me feel? And then the way that you feel is then going to really influence the way that you act. Because when we
Yes.
think things that make us feel like, we're not good enough or we don't deserve anything or whatever, eventually that survival part of you, like that childhood part of you we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
that part of you still has needs. And eventually it has a need to feel safe and
Yeah.
comforted and okay and taken care of. So no matter how many times you tell yourself, oh, but I don't deserve this, I don't deserve that,
Yeah.
that is going to come out in some kind of craving or urge for something because you do have needs and you're not meant to be a human who deprives yourself. You're meant to be someone who is really richly resourced in whatever way that looks like. Like my coaching program is called the Radiant Body Rich Life because the richness in your life, I'm not just talking about money. Sometimes it is money.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, the thing they're really craving is a career change or business growth or something, and that's the thing that's leading them to feel unsatisfied and going to the chips or whatever.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
also the richness of your life because when
Yeah.
we're craving the richness of a brownie, it's like, yeah, the brownie's great. And it's also a sign of like, where am I missing out on something ooey gooey delicious in my life
Yes.
that I need, that I've been depriving myself of because I've been saying I'm not good enough. I can't have it until I lose 20 pounds or until I this, that. And then we go through our lives kind of feeling like, meh,
Yeah.
it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's
It's not.
not necessary.
I know. It don't. It's like that defeated. Well, it is what it is, okay, and I don't no, I don't agree with that, and I don't want anyone, especially in my world, who comes in here to ever feel like they have to settle in life, that they have to keep letting life pass them by, living on autopilot, and not feeling like they're allowed to try. I mean, what do you have to lose by trying if you're already unhappy with where you are? That's how I see it. And I'm just like, I want to encourage people to just take those risks and put themselves out there and try the things and learn because ultimately not all of us really know where we're meant to go, and that's okay. I don't think you're really born to know where your purpose is per se. I think that living is how you find your purpose.
Yes.
Living is purpose, and you won't really ever find your place or reach your goals if you don't do anything and you just keep wanting it but not doing. The action is a huge part of it. But this has been so great, and I love the program that you do. Tell us a little bit about where someone could find you if they were wanting to learn more of how they could work with you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun. So,
I love it.
right now, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram, where I am at the luminous body. So, I know the links will be there because that's a little bit of a mouthful. And
Mm.
hopefully, by the time this is out, I will have my website, which will be www.theluminousbody.ca because I'm Canadian. So,
Ah, love it.
but yeah, that's honestly just the best place. And I would love if you heard this episode and something about it resonated, just send me a DM. I just love hearing from people and I love hearing what resonated specifically. And if you have any questions or follow up, reach out because it's really my mission to help women across the world to eliminate the drama around food.
Mm,
Because what I really see is that when we have this constant loop in our head and we feel like getting our eating together and figuring out weight loss or whatever it is this like side project, that is stealing the time and energy that we could be putting towards what we're really here to do, what we really want to do, the success that we really crave. And like my life changed so quickly when I reprioritized things and stopped prioritizing just waiting on the wait and waiting. Wasn't even prioritizing, I was just waiting. Truly, within 3 months, so much had happened. I met my husband after not dating for so long. I started to make moves. I lived in New York for 2 years and I started to like make moves on that dream. And then it happened the next year. I started to grow my income. Like, I really believe that this work and this whole issue, when we make it easier and less of a thing, we suddenly create space and time to really be the women we're meant to be.
mm,
And that's what it's about,
it
you know?
is.
And when we're showing up as the women we're meant to be, guess what? Your body starts to change into the way it's supposed to be too.
Yeah.
Because you're living out in a way that's actually based around nourishing and taking care of yourself. Because when you have a mission and you feel connected to things you're doing, even if your new mission is playing pickleball or going to dance class or just
Yeah.
pursuing something different that feels like it lights you up,
Yeah.
you start realizing, oh, I actually want to make feeling good my baseline. And so naturally, without willpower, without trying hard, your choices start aligning with feeling good too. They start aligning with, okay, I want to be this woman, so I'm going to do whatever I need that I can show up as this woman for as long as possible, which naturally just starts to include taking care of your health, your vitality, right? Your radiance. It's just all so connected and really like I don't even care if people, like lose 10 pounds or whatever. Like, sure, I understand that can happen. But really, what I want for you is freedom,
Yeah.
freedom with food, and then the freedom to go after and do the thing that you want with your life, right? Be the woman that you want to be, that you've been telling yourself, oh, I'll be there after I lose the 10 pounds. No, no, no. That
Yeah.
10 pounds will come off when you're being her. Trust me,
Exactly.
I see it all the time. And
Yeah.
that's why, again, it's about a reprioritization, and the rewards are just so much richer than just being like, oh, now I fit into this size of jeans. Like, cool, whatever. But like, there's so much more for you. And I
Right?
really love exploring with women what is that more that you're really craving?
Yeah, because there's always ultimately so much more than we even allow ourselves. Like, I was talking with somebody about, they said that one of the things they ask their clients is, what do you want? And a lot of times people always say, I don't know. But really what it is that they do know. They're just afraid to say it because they don't feel like it's possible for them. They don't believe that they're allowed to ask for that or want that. And
Mhm.
so that's like you say, ultimately getting rid of that baggage, that emotional connection, all the things like that does open up that space for them to take care of themselves in a different way and to really show up in a way that's going to give them the results that they want. They don't, people are so focused on these specific results
Yeah.
and they never stop and think about the simplicity of just doing the little things that will take them there before they know it without complicating it and putting on the stress. Like one of the things I also see too, like in certain people that I work with, is their need for perfection, or
Yes.
they have to have to they need all the numbers and all the things. And I'm sometimes like, would it hurt you to just kind of go with the flow a little bit with that and just have fun and show up in a way that's like you're still doing the things, but you're not so worried about like, well, I have to have this many people or talk to this, that, this, and that. I don't know. So for me, I feel like that sometimes limits people from really like having the right vibrations and
Yeah.
having and showing up in the right energy that's going to truly attract people in the way that they're already freaking out about. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's another way we start to score or judge ourselves, like with weight. Like if we're this
Yeah.
weight, we got a D minus, you know? And it's like we can take all of that
Mhm.
away. Like I
Yeah.
said, I used to obsess about the math and the numbers, and I thought the numbers
Yes.
were going to make it work. The numbers were not the thing. The numbers sort themselves out when
Mhm.
you're showing up, being and doing who
Yeah.
you're actually meant to, who you're meant to be and what you're meant to do.
Yeah, and I see that all the time with people as well, and I'm like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if you need to track certain things that you shouldn't, but if it's hindering you from continuing or from really taking action in ways that you know you should, then I might question it and say, is this really healthy? Is this really helping me to do what needs to be done? Because sometimes we don't realize how we hinder ourselves from really receiving just by having too much expectations or too much that we're adding onto, like you say, onto our plate and turning it into more work than it needs to be. So, yeah.
100%.
And I do have to ask, of course, I always ask, is there any final piece of advice that you would like to share with the listeners before we end here?
Oh, I always love these moments because then I get like 30,000 thoughts.
I know.
I really think that the piece of advice that I really have is to stop thinking that you are the problem. Because so many women are like, I'm just the one that these diets never work for. Trust me, behind the scenes of the Weight Watchers and commercials and the Nutrisystem and whatever, it's not working for a lot of people. Maybe it works enough for them to get a cute after photo, and then guess what? 3 months later, they're struggling with the same things. Like, we just know scientifically, statistically, a lot of these diets have been studied for a long time. The majority of the time, they don't work or they at least don't last. So, I want women to know that is not you. That is the approach. And going through my whole journey, the results that I created after my healing have lasted me 8 years. That is like a statistical, not even a thing that usually happens in the diet world, because what I teach is not dieting. It's just getting to the root of what is causing the overeating or the emotional eating and cleaning that all up, right? So I think it's just realizing that before you jump on another thing and before you kind of set yourself up for that disappointment, just realize it's not you. It hasn't been you. And what's gonna help you more is just getting to the underlying issue, right? Like
Yeah.
looking at what are you really craving? What are you really
Yeah.
missing in your life? And start to realize you're not alone. You're just not alone. Like
Yeah.
so many, as soon as I started talking
Yeah.
about my issues online, so many people came out of the woodwork. So I just want women to feel and know you're not alone,
Hmm.
and you're not the only one who the typical diet methods have not worked for.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a path to peace with food that does not feel like you're depriving yourself or that takes harder work.
Yeah, and I have to say too, with what you're talking about with getting to the root of problems, I think in society, so many people out there with the dieting and with things like that, medicine, they want to help the symptoms and the
Yeah.
surface stuff. And then that's why you always fall back into the old patterns, back into the old stuff, is because nobody really focuses on the root cause of what's really holding you back. And that is what I love what you do, Sarah. And we need more people like you in this world. And I love that you shared your story because this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want people to share this because this is how we all work to realize that we are not alone. We are not alone in this journey, and we all need to be here for each other, and we all need to do what we need to do for ourselves. I mean, just point blank. We really do. Wonderful advice. Everything you've talked about today, I've just really enjoyed it. I cannot thank you enough for everything you've shared. with us, and I'm just so excited to see where this takes you. And I hope to bring you back on because I think we could just talk all day long about this stuff, and I love it, and it's so important. I'd love to see your growth down the road as well. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and being part of the show.
Thank you, Mary. This was a joy.
I absolutely loved talking with Sara. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. Recognize that emotional eating often stems from unmet emotional needs or patterns established in childhood. Your relationship with food can improve when you address deeper emotional issues. Restrictive dieting and obsessing over calories can lead to disordered eating. Sustainable change comes from understanding and addressing the root causes of emotional eating, not just the symptoms. Are you using food to meet other unmet needs like relaxation or personal time? Breaking free from cycles of overeating and guilt starts with addressing deprivation, not just in your diet, but in your life. Consider how your childhood experiences around food and body image might influence your current habits. Healing your self-worth can help you break free from harmful food patterns established early in life. Food is more than just calories. It's also emotional and social. Embrace food as nourishment for your body and soul, focusing on balance and self-care rather than restriction. Improving your self-worth is key to overcoming emotional eating. Learn to identify your emotional triggers and build healthier habits rooted in self-love and self-care. Reflect on how your relationship with food and body image might affect your children. By cultivating a positive and nurturing relationship with food, you can model healthy habits for future generations. Surround yourself with supportive people, whether a coach, partner, or community, to stay accountable and motivated. Educate yourself on both the emotional and physical aspects of food to make informed, empowered choices. Lasting changes start with addressing the emotional reasons behind your eating habits, not just focusing on weight loss. When you meet your emotional needs and improve your self-relationship, your relationship with food will naturally stabilize. If you or someone you know struggles with eating habits and would like to learn more about how Sara can help support you in making lasting healthy changes, be sure to check out her links in the show notes to get connected today and share this episode with them. If you find this podcast valuable, we would greatly appreciate if you would follow us and leave a 5-star review to help support our mission to reach as many moms out there to inspire and uplift. For any moms looking to make real change in their lives and are ready to take action, be sure to schedule your free Radiant Mom Breakthrough session with me today so we can get a jump start in the right direction for you. Click in the link in the show notes to schedule your free session and let's connect. I love to see you all succeed and thrive as you are meant to. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in with me. Until next time, much love.